So that's kind of what I had to show you today. I have a couple more slides. All right, one more slide to kind of wrap things up here. And so in summary, we use orchestration for declarative service flow and human task management. We have a Reedy-based rules engine based on the rules engine that does content-based routing, event filtering, and event-based data manipulation, so you can actually modify the data on the fly, impact it on the fly. We use things like Groovy and scripting languages. There's a cluster rule JMS 1.1 broker built into this whole solution based on JMS. Of course, you can do things like web services and HTTP, things of that nature. There's a fragment-based transformation solution. All right, you actually kind of saw it in action there, but we didn't actually show you what the details were. Everything is held in the UDI registry, so every component you create and deploy gets hot deployed into the registry as well. If you hot undeploy it, it gets removed from the registry. So all that's covered right out of the box. Everything is running inside that engine you saw earlier. We have a solution for monitoring and management, service level load balancing and failover. So if I actually bring up 2 or 3 ESPs and I have 2 or 3 services scattered across them and I shoot messages out there, it'll load balance in a round robin kind of fashion. I don't have that demo running right here. And there's a lot of different ways to build your services and build your components. All right, so that's all I have for now, and I can take questions. Any specific questions, or are you guys like, wow, that's amazing? Yes, sir.
What's going on with JPDL?
JPDL? So I don't understand the question. We have JPDL as part of JBPM, and that's the focus for the JBPM team.
Yeah, now that they downloaded the zero version.
But
This is a 3 version, right?
this is based on 3.
Yeah,
Right.
I downloaded 4.0 version, something like this.
4.0 hasn't gone GA yet. 4.0 goes GA in July, and then it has to go through the productization process to become a formal product at JBoss. So we have a 2-stage process at JBoss. We have the open source community, which develops the solution that you guys can be part of the community that develops that particular product over time, and then it goes to a productization phase after we receive it from .org. So we're waiting now for JBPM4 to hit .org, and then we'll start the remaining part of that process. But this is all based on JPDL, JBPM, and everything you saw here, standard 3. Yes, ma'am. Okay, that's a very good point. So the question was, how do I get the data out of my business process in this case and move it over to the engine? The ESP actually did that for me. Let me see if I can show you quickly what that looks like if I have an example of it. So right here, calculate order priority. And let's see, right? I don't know if you can see that object paths right there on screen. But because the ESP is listening in and is mediating all these data points, it actually extracts the transformed message, the pieces of the data it cares about, and moves it into working memory for the rules engine. So in this case, it actually takes order header and customer and pushes it up into working memory, says rules engine go, rules engine does its job, and then out comes the modified order header and customer in this case. So we have a really neat mapping way to do it. I can show you the source of this. Maybe it'll make a little more sense there. If I can find it here quickly. You can see right here, all we're doing is simply passing in these objects. And then we're mapping it to a specific DRL file, a rules wool file in this case. Or if it's an XLS file, like you saw with my spreadsheet, you'll see an XLS file there too. So that's how we load the data into the rules engine. The ESP is extracting it from the environment, if you will, and then pushing it into the working memory for you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
With regards to the business rule engine, you said that it can maintain the state. So how do you identify that if I just pull out my network card, I'm in a credit transaction, and I just go ahead and pull out my network card, how will it identify that?
Pull out your what?
I pull out the cable, I just go
Oh,
to the
yes. Yeah, you could pull out the battery in this case with a laptop. And if you look back over here, let's go to this guy here. Everything that's interacting with the business process engine, so the specific business process engine, every time you change states in the business process engine, it writes a record to the database. That's all it is. So as long as you're confident that your database data won't get corrupted and that'll stay up, you're good to go.
Will the business rule engine be aware that I'm actually doing a proper logout or I'm just pulling out the network card?
So business rule engines by default in this context are stateless. So the rules engine operates at specific points of the business process. So the process is stateful, but when it reaches that stateful point, it says rules engine run. The rules engine does its job, in which case if it comes back clean, it moves to the next state. So if it doesn't come back clean because the plug got pulled, we'll just stay at the same state. When the machine comes booted back up again, we know what state we're at, we can tell it to go again, run the rules engine again. So that's how we built this particular demonstration on top of the JBoss ESB. There's other ways you can configure it though. There's also stateful rules engines, which we don't use in this particular example. Stateful rules engines do require a little more care and feeding, and you got to know what you're doing with those guys because they're living, breathing, and out there all the time. And if they do go down, you got to figure out how to get started back up again, and some information could be lost. That's a very fair question, though. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Right now, the block shipping and flows,
What's that?
block shipping and flows,
Yes.
suppose there's an external vendor.
Yes.
Can you define the QoS parameters for it? Like,
As far as quality.
has to be done within a day. Not that.
So in this case, you know, you have to define that what your business rule is with your business partner in that case. You know, you're going to have a contract between the two organizations that says, I expect you to respond within 24 hours. In this case, I could have had a timer that's running in the background looking at that saying it's expired over 24 hours. I can also monitor that specific event in what's called the JBoss Operations Network, which I don't have running right now. But there's demonstrations of that, which is a monitoring technology that'll tell you something is expired, something's gone too long. We've waited for 5 hours, or we've got 4,000 of these things. It'll tell you what, you can actually measure specific metrics in that environment. So you can actually say this thing's too long, too old, in fact too many, too little, and then alert somebody based on that is one example.
Where would you put this parameter? Where do you put this definition?
In JBoss Operations Network, yeah, there's a business rule over there that you can set up. They have their own little rule definition for alerting. Yep. Okay. Well, that's all for me. And if you have other questions, I'll be here for a while longer, and we can certainly, help you out over here at the podium. Thank you very much.